Hey, what's going on everyone? Greg here, and if you've been following the channel for a while, you know I love to do these tips and tricks videos, and with the Apple Watch having been out for a couple of months now, I still haven't done one. But with the holidays just wrapping up, I figured that probably quite a few people out there have gotten an Apple Watch as a gift, so there's never a better time to kind of go over some of the tips and tricks I love using with my Apple Watch Series 4. So for this video, I just wanted to go over some of my favorite tips and tricks for the Apple Watch Series 4.
Greg's Gadgets.
So my first trick is to access the control center anywhere. If you've been using your Apple Watch Series 4 and you've been swiping up from the bottom of the home screen, you know that you can access the control center. What you might not know is that you can actually summon the control center from within any app. Now, if you go about the normal way of doing this, of just sliding up on the screen with your Apple Watch, you'll notice that you're not actually getting the control center. This is because the Apple Watch has a touch screen, and maybe you're just scrolling through a list, or maybe you're scrolling through something else, and it doesn't want to confuse you and pop up the control center. Because the screen's so tiny, you might be swiping up, so Apple implemented a different way to access the control center that's different from the way you would normally access it on the home screen. So to access the control center on any app, all you simply do is hold your finger at the bottom of the screen for a second, and you'll see the control center appear, and you just swipe up. And this will work in any app where you want to access the control center quickly. Again, all you do is just hold that finger on the bottom and swipe up, and you will get access to the control center. Now, while we're in control center, you might also not like the default icon arrangement that's currently in control center. Thankfully, with watchOS 5, you can finally order the control center any way you want. All you do is go into the control center, scroll all the way down, and you'll see an edit button. Hit that edit button, and you'll see the control center icon start to jiggle. With the control center items jiggling, you can now hold on any of those items and then just simply drag it around the screen to reorder the orientation. So if you want the walkie-talkie app on top, if you want to move the battery percentage down, if you want to move the flashlight into a different position, any way you like your control center, you can rearrange it into any order you want with that edit button on the Apple Watch. Have you ever gotten a notification from your Apple Watch and not felt the vibration from it? Well, this next tip might just help you out because you can actually make the haptic feedbacks more prominent on the Apple Watch. To do this, all you have to do is go into Settings, scroll down to Sound and Haptics, scroll down and turn on Prominent Haptics. When you turn on Prominent Haptics, instead of getting that one single tap on your Apple Watch, you'll get a series of multiple taps. That is a lot easier to recognize, and I really like this feature because when you wear the Apple Watch for a while, that single tap, you can kind of get really used to it. So if you're constantly missing notifications, if you're constantly missing alerts on your Apple Watch, you might want to turn on those prominent haptic alerts. Now, if you're getting those alerts and you want to quickly silence it, I usually use my Apple Watch in a silence mode, but maybe you like to have the ringer on and maybe you're in a meeting and you're getting a phone call. If you quickly want to silence that, this is a really good tip for you. All you have to do is take the palm of your hand and quickly cover the screen of your Apple Watch. That will silence any incoming alert. And this is really useful, especially if you don't use your Apple Watch in the silence mode, because anytime it rings, if you have an alarm, if you quickly need to silence your watch, all you have to do is just take your palm, put it right on your Apple Watch, and it will instantly silence any alert that comes through on your Apple Watch. Now, speaking of being more discreet with your Apple Watch, this next tip is also really helpful if you're trying to use your Apple Watch and not be noticed. And this is to just simply rotate the digital crown while the screen is off. As you rotate the digital crown with your Apple Watch screen off, you'll quickly see that the brightness starts to come up. This way you can quickly see your Apple Watch, you can quickly check the time, you can quickly check notifications without your whole entire Apple Watch lighting up. I find this feature really helpful in things like meetings when you want to see a quick alert, you don't want anyone to know you're using your Apple Watch, or maybe in a place like a movie theater where you don't want to disturb anyone, maybe you want to check the time really quickly, or maybe there's an important message you're waiting for, you can just quickly rotate the crown up on your Apple Watch and see what's going on. Now, this next tip is to reorganize your app dock. So when you first set up your Apple Watch, the default mode for pressing the dock is to open up your most recent apps. Although this feature might be more helpful on older watches where speed is a problem, I find that on the Series 4 Apple Watch, the apps load pretty fast enough that you don't really need to scroll between your most recent used apps. So I much prefer to set up my dock in a different way. So instead of having your dock set to recents, I like to have it set up to be my favorite apps. To do this, all you do is go into the Watch application on your iPhone. If you go into the settings, you'll see an option for dock. And on the top of it, you'll see an option for recents and favorites. You'll want to select favorites, and then you can customize which apps appear on your dock. This way, every time you go into your dock, you'll always see the apps that you set there. And I really like this method, especially again for the Series 4 watch, which is fast enough at loading apps that you don't need to be going between your recent apps. I find it much more helpful there to have my favorite apps there, so I'm always ready to access my favorite apps on my Apple Watch. Speaking of categorizing your apps, there's also another way to navigate your home screen on your Apple Watch. Now, the default home screen for the Apple Watch is basically a bunch of circular icons, and if you start to add up apps after a while, it might get a little messy, a little crazy. You might not know exactly where every app is placed. I have a lot of apps on my Apple Watch. I'm constantly downloading new ones, and sometimes I lose place of where my apps are. So instead of having it as that messy honeycomb grid of icons, you might want to change it to a list view. To do this, all you do is go to that home screen, and you're going to want to force touch, which is basically pressing really hard on the Apple Watch screen. From there, you'll see the grid view, which is the view we were just in, and then you'll also see a list view. Tap on list view and you'll see all of your apps alphabetized for you. So you can quickly scroll through your apps in alphabetical order. And this can really help find the app that you want to use instead of going through that messy grid of icons. Now for this next tip, have you ever been playing music on your iPhone and then you go to look at the time with your Apple Watch, and all of a sudden, instead of seeing the time, you're greeted with the music playback controls? Sure, this can be helpful sometimes, especially if you were looking to access those music controls, but more often than not, I find that it gets in the way of me looking at my watch face. So instead of quickly seeing my watch face, quickly seeing the complications I set up there, I just see the now playing list, and that can get really annoying really fast. So this next tip is to disable those audio apps from hijacking your watch face. So for this, you'll want to go to Settings. You'll want to tap on General. From there, you'll want to tap on Wake Screen. And in that Wake Screen section, you'll see something called Auto Launch Audio Apps. Once you turn that off, that will prevent the Now Playing screen from activating every time you're playing audio through your iPhone. So now, every time you lift up your watch, you can be rest assured that that Now Playing screen won't be greeting you there. Now, I prefer this method because with this next little bonus tip, if you go to your watch face and you look at the top center of your Apple Watch, you'll see the icon for the Now Playing, and you could just tap that to quickly get into your audio anyway. I definitely prefer this method of getting into the Now Playing section instead of letting the Apple Watch automatically do it for me. Speaking of other ways to take advantage of that wrist raise with your Apple Watch, for this tip, you can always get whatever the last app you were using on your Apple Watch when you raise your wrist. So if you've been using your Apple Watch and you raise your wrist up and you didn't want to be greeted by the watch face, you wanted to be greeted by the last app you're using, maybe there's something important you're always checking on, and maybe you don't want to be clicking back and forth between the watch face and the Apple Watch app. This is another way to really customize that experience. So in that same settings screen, you're going to want to scroll all the way down and you will see the option for on-screen raise show last app. Now you can customize this with a couple of options like while in session, within 2 minutes of last use, within 1 hour of last use, or you can customize it to always show the last app that you were on. So with that setting set to always, when you lift up your wrist, you'll always be greeted by the last app you were using. And this is really helpful if you don't want to be closed out of the apps you're in. If you want the option to always have your last active app showing, this is a way to take advantage of that. Now for this last Apple Watch tip, this has to do with the recently announced ECG feature on the Apple Watch. With that update, the Apple Watch added the ability to take an electrocardiogram on your Apple Watch, which unlocked this electronic sensor on the digital crown of your Apple Watch. And with that sensor, you can actually take a more accurate reading and faster reading of your heart rate. So all you have to do to get those faster readings on your Series 4 Apple Watch is to go into that heart app. And once you're in that app, it will automatically start taking a reading of your heart rate. Now to get the more accurate and faster heart reading, all you have to do is take your index finger and place it on the digital crown while it's reading your heart rate. And just by doing this, you will get a more accurate reading of your heart rate. And you can even see that it starts to collect data a lot faster. It cycles through the beats per minute way faster than it's doing it automatically. And this is just a really cool feature, a really cool hidden tip that a lot of people don't know about. And if you like to take your heart measurements, if you want to know what your current beats per minute is on your Apple Watch, if you have a Series 4 Apple Watch, this is the fastest and most accurate way to record that data. And I think it is a really nice benefit for people who own the Series 4 Apple Watch to be able to get those more accurate readings. And this doesn't even require the full ECG reading in the dedicated ECG app. You could just do this in the normal heart monitoring app. Okay, and that's the end of my tips and tricks. I hope everyone found something helpful or useful, and maybe something that they didn't know previously. And if you did find something helpful, make sure you leave this video a like. If you want to see more from my channel, make sure you guys subscribe. If you want to support the channel, make sure you check out the links in the description. I'll have a link to my merch store. Also, let me know what you thought of these tips and tricks. Do you have any of your own that you would like to add to this list? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, I will see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone.